Hey there, brothers and sisters. On behalf of the equity group, I want to thank all of you for approaching these topics and having great discussions and being open to discussing them in your groups. Most importantly, for approaching them with a Christ centered love for one another. On behalf of Rosa, the kids, and myself, I just want to say we miss you all. We miss being together, miss worshiping together. We miss our friends, bottom line. And so we're praying, God willing, that we'll all be back together soon, sooner rather than later. Um, Hope you all had a chance to reflect on the lesson from last week. Thank especially to the Bible Talk leaders for using the Padlet for kind of a recap of discussion. There's going to be a link for Padlet again this week. The equity group, we're looking at all the comments. We're encouraged, like I said, to see good discussion going on. At the same time, we're open to feedback. And there are a few things that were brought up that I want to address here in a second. But it's really encouraging to see that you're all willing to get deep and honest with one another. To be honest with you, that's one thing I don't like about meeting like this. It's hard to get real and personal when we're not together in person. This seems so, virtual, not really real. And it's a lot easier when we're all sitting together in someone's living room, a place of safety and security and comfort where we can just be open and honest with each other. So I appreciate all of you taking the time to do this, sacrificing time on Wednesday night, and thank God for the technologies that we can do this today. I do want to address a couple things that were brought up in the Padlet. The first that has to do with the definitions that we used. So I want to apologize for lack of clarity and any confusion there might have been. Um, the fact of the matter is, these words carry baggage. It's easy to allow the world to define these terms for us. And so I just want you to know the equity group, we spent a lot of time deliberately going over not just what words we choose to use, but how we choose to define those words. We believe our definitions can be biblically defended, quite honestly, and really are meant not to be a written in stone definition, but are meant to just kind of stimulate the conversation going forward. But the feedback was fair, and we take that. Like I said, we're taking the feedback that you give us, and so we're including dictionary definitions as well to hopefully add a little bit of clarity of what we're getting at. Kind of related too. I just want to point out that these lessons, the discussion especially, may relate to things we experience in the world, but the intent of the lessons is about us as a body of Christ and how we grow in unity, as Paul describes in Ephesians. That's the goal of this. It's not to get these words defined correctly. It really is about our relationships with one another and our relationships as a body of Christ with Christ Jesus as the focus. Another thing that was brought up, and this is a really good point as well, is a desire for more practical and personal applications. Truth is, these first couple lessons are kind of laying the groundwork, paving the way, if you will, for lessons that are going to get a little more challenging and get a little more practical as we go forward. Now, as far as personal stories go, we're going to include some testimonies in these lessons, rest assured. But that first lesson was kind of like an icebreaker. And also, to be honest, to see how this would go. But we are going to include, like I said, some testimonies going forward and some personal stories. So, personal story time. Um, like I said at the beginning, we miss all of you. I miss all of you. And I think about, sometime in the future when we're all worshiping together again without masks, even, that we might not even recognize each other. We might look at each other, oh my goodness, you've aged so much, or oh my goodness, I forgot you looked like that. Um, and it's funny for me to think about because when I see people from the church or people I know in public, I'm always kind of hesitant. It's like I'm not sure that's who that is because half of their face is covered, and I'm not confident that I would be without those masks, right? And so we aren't seeing each other face to face like we're used to seeing. So I took advantage of that, to be honest. At the beginning of the pandemic, I shaved my beard. It's okay. You're forgiven if you didn't notice. It's been so long since we've seen each other after all. But I shaved my beard. And I intentionally did it at the beginning of the pandemic um, because I knew if I didn't like it, no one would see me. And it would be really easy just to grow it back. Um, it's kind of funny to think about, but my beard was, in a way, a little bit of a security blanket. In fact, that's why I grew it out. I grew it out intentionally because I felt insecure about my image at work. Several years ago, I would go to meetings and no one would pay me any mind. So I have the downside of having a little bit of a baby face. Not only that, I'm also white as a sheet. So um, easily forgettable and not noticeable. And I struggled with that. I struggled that I felt like people weren't recognizing me for the work that I did, that there wasn't anything to distinguish me, to really get someone to remember who I was. And it was frustrating too that I would go to meetings, like a couple months after a previous meeting with the same group of people that I briefed, that I talked to, that I met, some that I would go out to lunch with, and a couple months later I'm in this meeting and they wouldn't remember who I was. So I remember one time specifically, like I said, it's funny to think about and look back on. But I'm at this meeting and I look and I notice that everyone sitting at the head of the table, they all had beards. And it seems dumb in hindsight, but I decided then and there that I'm going to grow out a beard because, you might not remember this face, but a big old red beard, maybe you'll remember. And I really was going for that kind of older, distinguished look. And I'd like to think it worked. And so I kind of hung on to it, maybe a little bit longer than I needed to and should have. Basically, my beard became a security blanket. It became part of my identity, part of who I was. And so it's silly to think about how trivial things like that become so central to our identity. So I want to talk about that a little bit more. A couple of weeks ago, I was participating in a workshop with Hope Worldwide on diversity and inclusion. And a sister in the campus ministry that sits on the Hope Youth Advisory Council presented this exercise, and it was done in one of her classes. It was part of her class, and when she walked us through the exercise, pretty much everyone who was on this conference call was blown away. So this is amazing. It just really gets your wheels turning. It's really thought provoking, and conveniently timing wise, it fits perfectly in what we're going to be talking about tonight. And so I thought I'd share that with you. Now, keep in mind, this is really just to kind of stimulate our minds a little bit, get the wheels turning. Don't answer these questions. Don't feel like you have to answer these questions out loud. They're really meant for personal reflection. But I do want to take some time just to kind of reflect on all of these. So give me one moment while I bring this up. Okay. Before you look at the question, I want you to look at the words that are in these blue bubbles around the question. Think about what they mean. Think about what they mean to you. Now, some of these words are similar: career, employment status. Some may be related: zip code and socioeconomic status. Some of these words you might reject outright, thinking that they have nothing to do with you. But the truth is, every single one of these words play a role in how we identify ourselves. So look at all these words and now ask yourself, which of these aspects of your identity do you think about the most? Take your time. And again, you don't have to answer out loud. Which of these aspects of your identity do you think about the most? Maybe it's the first thing you think about when you wake up in the morning. Maybe it's the thing you worry about the most. Which of these do you think about the most? Now, our second question, similar. Which of these do you think about the least? Again, you don't have to answer out loud, just food for thought. Personally, this one is easier for me to answer because some of these words, it's easy for me to dismiss. But given that, let's pause for a second. Some of these words are easy for me to dismiss. That doesn't mean they're easy for you to dismiss in your identity. So ask yourself, do you think others in your group would answer this question the same way, these two questions the same way? Would others in the church answer them the same way? Others in your neighborhood, your school, your job? Now, while you're considering that, here's our third question. Really a group of questions. But these questions strike to the heart of your identity. Which of these aspects affect how people treat you, is easy to hide, is embarrassing, or that you're most proud of? Take a little bit more time on this one. While you're reflecting on this a little bit, here are some follow up questions to ask yourself. How do these answers influence how you navigate life, faith, and relationships? In other words, which of these aspects influence how you live your life? Now let's go back to those questions earlier. If someone answers differently, then doesn't that imply that those aspects of identity influence their life differently? So, what does that say about our relationships, how we relate to one another? If I approach my life differently than you do I make assumptions about your identity based on my experience? Do I even care which of these you most identify with because I expect you to be just like me? Do we consider these aspects in other people's identity when we meet them, when we befriend them, when we listen to their stories? Do we consider their identity? So these are challenging questions, I'll be honest. And like I said, really kind of meant just to kind of stimulate our thought process, our mindset as we go into this week's lesson. They're uncomfortable to consider. But these questions need to be asked. They need to be asked of ourselves honestly. It's like the scripture says about looking at ourselves in a mirror. That's what we're doing here. We're looking at ourselves in a mirror. Because only by answering these questions honestly can we really move forward in unity as a church. So I'm looking forward to hearing some great feedback in the Padlets again. Enjoy your discussion, and I pray that you all have a great rest of the week. Thanks.